I am awake right now, and I'm here to share you some politics and gossip all roll into one. The online left is correct and wrong at the same time about both Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore. I'm just one more member of the online left, although I'm not very well known yet. And that can be easily remedied by you, all of y'all watching this that haven't subscribed to this channel to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll be contributing to making me one more significant member of the online left. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? Little Monty Python reference there. Anyway, getting back to my commentary. Online leftists, and that's a leftist that are online that many of us listen to, and actual leftists I know personally in my day-to-day life over the years. Uh, there's really no middle ground when it comes to discussing both Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore. And hopefully I can make this more than just mere gossip. Sam Cedar loves to crap on both Dave and Jimmy Dore. I'm totally with Sam Cedar when it comes to crapping on Dave Rubin. I mean, when he does it, it's funny as hell and everything. I mean, it gets a little old at times that he's been maybe once or twice a week doing that to both Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore. But I totally agree with Sam Cedar on crapping on Dave Rubin. I don't see eye to eye when he does that to Jimmy Dore. Now I understand that um, Sam Cedar's part of that cerebral section of the left that what they call the Brooklyn left and everything. I understand that, and I'm not criticizing. They're not criticizing the Brooklyn left. I'm just my own person. In some ways, I identify with I'm not cerebral. I identify with the point of view of the Brooklyn left, and there are other times that I take a more abrasive course that's espoused by someone like Jimmy Dore. This is why I listen to Kyle Klinsky, because he sort of combines the best of someone like a Sam Cedar or David Pakman, and whereas he also combines the best of someone like Jimmy Dore or the Amazing Atheist, even though the Amazing Atheist and Jimmy Dore don't like each other. He sort of combines the best of those type of leftists and put it in one package, and that's why as I said, I will listen to Kyle Klinsky more than all the others. But having that said, Sam Cedar, he decided to go and talk about. It was March 21st. Today's the 22nd, so it was yesterday. This came out on YouTube about Dave Rubin talking about living his life as a gay man being the reason why he doesn't move to Texas. Well, anyway, I want you to hear for yourself, and I'm going to comment on it. So hold on tight here. Give me a second.
I will say one thing. I crap on California a lot for obvious reasons: the taxes, the regulation, the homelessness, the whole thing. California does have the best laws around surrogacy, especially for same-sex couples in the United States, significantly better than places like Texas and Florida. So when I bash on California all the time and I say all the great things about some of those red states, it's not like everything is absolutely perfect. And that partly is one of the reasons that we haven't bolted just yet. But anyway, I have no doubt that I'm going to get a ton of messages from you guys.
Okay. And they went on. I mean, Majority Report went on about Dave Rubin finally saying something correct, and I'm going to agree with him. It was probably the most correct thing I've heard coming out of Dave Rubin's mouth since he left the Young Turks. In the early days of the Rubin Report, he still purportedly was on the left. He was still I mean, believe it or not, in around that time, 2015, 2016, when he departed, I think it was 2015 when he parted ways with the Young Turks and went on his own with the Rubin Report. He was still he was in the Bernie Sanders camp at that time. Believe it or not, he was the disgruntled leftist who was kind of kind of perturbed by what is known as the regressive left or the SJW phenomenon that's taking place. Overall, political correctness, the authoritarian strain that has been really rearing its ugly head on the left. And on that one, I would say that Dave Rubin was correct then. He might arguably be correct about that these days. Um, but what makes Dave Rubin such an odious character, just a bad actor, in my opinion, is that okay, Dave Rubin being a disgruntled leftist, kind of wanting to the left to kind of ditch political correctness. I get that. That's where I'm at. I'm there, but I didn't like how he moved on forward afterwards. So in 2016, with the choices between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, he actually supported Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate for president, and went on a Libertarian course. I get that. I'm not a Libertarian. It's not my point of view, but I totally, a choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump going with Gary Johnson, I can respect that. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. So I totally get that about Dave Rubin, but he went from that to this position that had it been between had it been between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, he would have voted for Donald Trump. Then I'd said, fuck you, Dave Rubin, at that point, because I understand you choosing Gary Johnson between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, but to choose to choose Donald Trump between him and Bernie Sanders, and now and acting like it's just the most horrible thing in the world to support Bernie Sanders. Dave Rubin, fuck off, fuck off, and fuck you. Seriously. And then he turned into a full blown movement conservative, minus the fact that he's gay. I mean, and he'll be having these guests on the show. I don't have a problem with him having horrible guests on the show. But my problem with Dave Rubin is he'll have these horrible guests while he was pretending to be the last sane progressive around. He'll have someone like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or Glenn Beck, and they'll make some of the horrible Dennis Prager, all of them, making some of the horrible commentaries and observations, and he'll either be like, interesting, or I agree. I don't have a problem with him being polite to assholes like Shapiro, like Beck, like even Steven Crowder, which if anybody deserved to be disrespected, it's Steven Crowder. But anyway, I don't have any problem with being polite with them, but to go unchallenged. And here's the thing, Dave Rubin, let me tell you, you're trying to be friends with Ben Shapiro. He doesn't like you. He thinks you're a terrible person because you're married to a man. Same thing with Steven Crowder. He thinks you're a terrible person because you're married to a man. Now, I think that maybe Glenn Beck, while he probably don't approve, I will give him a little wiggle room. I don't think that Glenn Beck is a homophobe. I still don't. I still think that his position on the LGBTQ equality is not as progressive or forward thinking as it should be. But I certainly think he's redeemable compared to a bad actor like Ben Shapiro or a bad actor like Steven Crowder, who are just absolute assholes. Um, so you know, Dave Rubin is, he claims to be for freedom of speech and all that, and he always trying to paint it out like, more lunatic you are on the right, you're the one for free speech, and everybody that's on the left are pro censorship. And while I do acknowledge that there's too much censorship growing on the left these days, growing more than I would ever care to see on the left, the fact is that he doesn't ever talk about the free speech people on the left and the free speech advocates that exist on the left. whether it's Noam Chomsky or whether it's Glenn Greenwald or whether it's Kyle Kalinske or almost any lawyer affiliated with the American Civil Liberties Union. He never talks about the free speech, pro free speech left at all these days. He wants to make it out like every leftist is an authoritarian trying to cancel culture people, and not and act like everybody that's on the right are free speech warriors, which is absolute bullshit. Now, there are free speech supporters on the right. There are conservatives. There are libertarians. There are paleocons. There are even maybe a few little neocons here and there that might be for free speech. And good for them if they are. I acknowledge they exist on the right, but they also exist on the left. And there are people who are pro censorship on the left, and there are people who are pro censorship on the right. But Dave Rubin has a partisan narrative, and he's dishonest to the core. So that's my thing about Dave Rubin. Now let's talk about Jimmy Dore and Dave Rubin possibly being friends. And this came out this morning on Progressive Voice. Sahil Habibi. If there's anybody that can give you the scoop and the lowdown on the online, mostly the online left, but even people on the online right, he's pretty good about gathering all this information and everything. And I get a kick out of Sahil Habibi, and I hope that one day he'll recognize American social democracy, good or bad, and do a commentary. You heard me, Sahil. You heard me. I'm just curious what you think of my show. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Little Monty Python reference once again. But anyhow, he was commenting on Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore, and that recently Jimmy Dore defended Dave Rubin not on ideology, but on the fact that Dave Rubin has a show and interviews controversial people. And Dave Rubin can interview whoever the hell he wants, and it's still his show. And that's all basically Jimmy Dore was saying. But there are some people on the left that wants to crap on Jimmy Dore, including Sahil Habibi and all that. And the thing about it is that the Jimmy Dore show, just like the Rubin Report, used to be affiliated with the Young Turks, and they went their separate ways. One can argue that Dave Rubin separated from the Young Turks and went right wing, and some can argue that that Jimmy Dore parted ways with the Young Turks and went further left. Although there are people on the left that'll tell you he's not on the left anymore; he's on the right. And I just think that is silly to sit there and to hate on Jimmy Dore because he's got an asshole demeanor about him. But anyway, I'm going to play you a clip from the Jimmy Dore show via Progressive Voice about this whole thing about Jimmy Dore and Dave Rubin being buddies, and I'm going to comment some more on it. Hold on tight. Here we go.
In that article, it said they talked about Dave Rubin, and they said Dave Rubin, who has interviewed white nationalists, this, that, and blah, blah, and they named everything anti-this and anti-trans activists and that. And I go, yeah, he does an interview show. That's what, if you're a journalist, you could say that about fucking Walter Cronkite. You could say that about anybody who's supposed to be doing interviews. They're supposed to be interviewing fucking people from all walks of life. Phil Donahue. I grew up on Phil Donahue. I know who David Duke is because he was a regular on the fucking Phil Donahue show. This idea that interviewing people who are outrageous is wrong, people who are way out of line with you politically, that is crazy. Again, that is the establishment trying to control the narrative, and they're trying to keep you in your siloed away and fighting each other. That's all that is. And they're really ramping that up now because that's all they got. Because as soon as the Americans realize that this is a class war and not a left-right war, the establishment is fucked. And they're coming closer to realizing.
Okay.
So yeah, as you guys saw there, Jimmy Dore's defense.
Okay, there you have it. The thing about it is that they're that some people don't like Jimmy Dore because he kind of veers too much into class reductionism, and there are people who are on the quote unquote right. I don't mean like your typical movement conservatives, but people who are kind of independent conservative types that has pro Trump sympathies. Those people tend to like Jimmy Dore or find something very redeemable about Jimmy Dore. And the fact that they do, some people on the left saying, well, he's a terrible person because of it. And that's really what it comes down to. They don't like the fact that Jimmy Dore reaches out to people on the right and give them something to think about. And so they criticize him for being on Tucker Carlson, or and they don't like the fact that Tucker Carlson will have him on the show, or they'll criticize Glenn Greenwald for the same thing, or whomever. They'll criticize them. And the thing about it is, I think it's awesome that Jimmy Dore occasionally makes it on Tucker Carlson. This does not mean I defend Tucker Carlson. I think that what Tucker Carlson have to say about immigrants is at best insensitive, and at worst really disturbing. Um, but the thing about it is, to quote John Lydon, formerly of the Sex Pistols, formerly of Pill, Public Image Limited, he once said, "Go where you're not wanted. There's more to be achieved." And he said that when he was with the Sex Pistols. And he was correct to say these things, because you go on someplace like Tucker Carlson, you're tapping into an audience, and you may be able to turn some of those Trump supporters away from being pro-Trump, and may turn them into default Bernie bros. Shouldn't that be what the left desire? Because Jimmy Dore's not coming on Tucker Carlson to say, send those brown people back over to the border, or isn't Donald Trump just an awesome guy, or what have you. I mean, he's not saying these things. What he's saying is, let's withdraw the troops out of the Middle East. One of the areas where Tucker Carlson is actually correct. He was one of the first conservatives to be against these wars abroad. Remember when people like Rachel Maddow and remember when people like Keith Olbermann were thinking that the Bush-Cheney doctrine was bullshit? And now we got people who are supporting Joe Biden these days, thinking, well, since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are engaging in Bush-Cheney foreign doctrine light, that is somehow now okay. And when someone like someone like Tucker Carlson, or even somebody more odious like Alex Jones, are correct on foreign policy about getting us out of these foreign wars, they don't want to acknowledge that, and so they'll go and take someone like John Bolton and act like he's a good guy just on Trump. I mean, I think everybody's confused politically these days. They really are politically confused, and that the fact that Jimmy Dore defended Dave Rubin, and does not make them secret buddies. But even if it's true, so he'll claim that they're secretly friends with each other. Even if Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore are friends with each other, so what? So what? Michael Moore and Steve Bannon are friends. I think that's more shocking and more offensive than Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore being buddies, if they are in fact buddies. But I don't even see Jimmy Dore and Dave Rubin being buddies, because even though they have that common bond of being fellow members of the Young Turks, and actually being friends with the same people from the Young Turks, many of the people of the Young Turks, Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore they have an ideology as separate from each other, and to try to paint Jimmy Dore as the next Dave Rubin is ridiculous. Dave Rubin is a Zionist, bootlicker for the Benjamin Netanyahu government in Israel, a position that I don't embrace at all. Jimmy Dore is a hostile critic of the Israeli government and their repression against the Palestinians and everything. And as far as the suppression against the Palestinians, Jimmy Dore's correct. in that regard. So on the issue of Israel and Palestine alone, Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore do not see eye to eye. Dave Rubin became critical of Bernie Sanders for the wrong reasons. Jimmy Dore became critical of Bernie Sanders for the wrong reasons. But the thing about it is that Dave Rubin thinks that Bernie Sanders is some sort of communist, whereas trying to turn America into Venezuela. Whereas Jimmy Dore, although I do think that Jimmy Dore is too harsh on AOC, too harsh on Bernie Sanders at times. He's too harsh on them both at times. His criticism of Bernie Sanders and his criticism of AOC is more legitimate than the criticism Dave Rubin has against someone like a Bernie Sanders or someone like an AOC. And how seriously can I take Dave Rubin when he wants to go and be friends with little Ben Shapiro, who is absolutely grossed out by the existence of Dave Rubin for whom he is, a man that loves another man. That's why he would never want to hang out with Dave Rubin, because of who he is as a person, and which is sad because you know it, you know I mean it's just sad, that whole thing. Steven Crowder the same way, horrible individual. Dave Rubin, why the fuck you want to be friends with Ben Shapiro or excuse me, Steven Crowder? Why the hell would you want to do that? That's just they're both horrible human beings, very horrible human beings, completely. And anyway, just something else that goes on here on the left and everything, and we'll see how everything goes next time round. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say for right now. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were not quite seeing eye to eye with me, you can go ahead and comment anyway, and we'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you're passionate about something and have a platform, and don't to go ahead and utilize it. And if you don't have a platform, create one and utilize it, because we're all the muckrakers of our time. And feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Another little hint. Go ahead and do that. Little Monty Python reference. Hint. Know what I mean? Hint. Anyway, feel free to hit the subscribe notification bell. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. And until next time, once again, peace. Class struggle yesterday, today, tomorrow, until there's full economic and social justice for all. Whee!